Welcome to Vivid Verses. If our words resonate with you, please subscribe, tap the like, and share your thoughts and your feelings in the comments. Now let's begin. The cupboard door hit the frame with enough force to rattle the spice jars 3 feet away. It was a calculated sound. In my experience, accidental noise has a specific chaotic signature, a clatter, a bounce, a rhythm of gravity taking over. This was different. This was percussive. It was a single, sharp report designed to breach the noise-canceling threshold of my focus. It was a flare shot into the sky. Pay attention to me. I didn't look up. I sat at the kitchen island, the marble cool against my forearms, scrolling through the Q3 supply chain audits on my tablet. The numbers in the logistics column were drifting into the red, a 0.04% variance that looked negligible to the untrained eye but suggested a vendor was skimming off the top of the shipping manifest. That was a problem worth solving. Rachel's mood was not. She stood at the counter, her back to me. Her posture was rigid, shoulders drawn up toward her ears, spine stiff. She was dismantling the salad spinner with the intensity of a bomb disposal technician who secretly wanted the device to detonate. I heard the sharp intake of breath through her nose, held for a beat, and then released in a heavy, shuddering exhale. The sigh. In the lexicon of our relationship, the sigh is the opening gambit. It is a solicitation. It demands a query. It is designed to create a vacuum in the room that I am socially obligated to fill with the question, "Is everything okay?" To which she would reply, "Nothing," in a tone that implies everything, forcing me to dig, plead, and eventually apologize for a crime I haven't been charged with yet. It is an exhaustion engine. It converts my peace of mind into her validation. Tonight, I checked the exchange rate on that transaction and decided it was too expensive. I checked my watch. 7:12 p.m. I had allocated 45 minutes for dinner. At 8 p.m., I had a scheduled review of the Asia-Pacific contracts in my study. I could spend this 45 minutes navigating a minefield of unvoiced grievances, or I could consume the requisite calories, maintain a pleasant baseline, and preserve my mental energy for work that actually paid a return. I chose the latter. "Dinner looks good," I said. I kept my voice flat, stripping it of any sarcasm or cajoling. Just a statement of fact. The roast chicken was browning correctly. The asparagus was bright green. She didn't answer. She picked up a serving spoon and dropped it onto the ceramic rest. Clack. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was pressurized. Rachel was broadcasting on a frequency of pure agitation. She moved around the kitchen with sharp, jerky movements, opening drawers and slamming them shut, looking for utensils that were already on the table. I served myself, plating a thigh and a scoop of wild rice, then poured water from the carafe. "Did you hear back from the venue coordinator about your sister's baby shower?" I asked. I sat down. She remained standing for a moment, gripping the counter, before turning and sitting opposite me. She refused to make eye contact. She stared at a spot on the drywall just above my left shoulder, as if reading a teleprompter that told her to remain hostile. "No," she said. One syllable. Clipped. "Bureaucracy," I said, cutting into the chicken. "They're likely waiting on the catering vendor to update the Q4 pricing. It usually takes 48 hours for the approval chain to clear. I wouldn't worry about it until Thursday." "It's fine," she said. "Good." I took a bite. The seasoning was adequate. The dynamic in the room was a standoff. She was waiting for me to crack. Most men would. Most men are conditioned to view female silence as a failure on their part. They start scanning their memory banks, replaying the last 24 hours, looking for the error. Did I leave a towel on the floor? Did I forget to text back? Did I look at the waitress too long? I stopped doing that a year ago. I realized that if I had done something objectively wrong, it was incumbent upon her, as an adult partner, to file the grievance. If I hadn't done something wrong, then this was an internal mood regulation issue. I am not the manager of her moods. I am her partner, not her therapist or her father. I watched her peripheral movements. She was picking at the food, moving a stalk of asparagus from the left side of the plate to the right. She wasn't eating. This was the escalation, the hunger strike, a visual demonstration that she was too distressed to nourish herself. I poured more water. I saw a report today on the metro housing market. Inventory is climbing, but interest rates are keeping buyers frozen. The liquidity in the market is drying up. She looked at me then. It was a glare of genuine disbelief. She couldn't process that I was discussing real estate macroeconomics while she was aggressively radiating misery. MMH, she grunted. It suggests we should hold off on looking for a larger place until the third quarter of next year. I continued. Let the market correct. We don't want to buy at the top of a bubble. I wasn't baiting her. I was discussing our shared assets. If she chose not to participate in the planning of our future because she was busy sulking about the present, that was a loss of equity she was choosing to incur. She put her fork down and crossed her arms over her chest, leaning back. A defensive, closed posture. I finished the chicken. I ate the rice. I drank the water. I wiped my mouth with a napkin, folded it into a neat square, and placed it to the left of the plate. That was excellent, Rachel. Thank you. I stood up. I took the plate to the sink, rinsed it, and placed it in the dishwasher. The mechanics of the evening were concluding. I had eaten. I had attempted conversation. I had cleaned up my mess. I'm going to read in the study, I said. I need to go over the new lease agreements. I turned to leave, walking toward the hallway. My pace was steady. I wasn't fleeing, I was transitioning. Then the snap. You're not even going to ask what's wrong. Her voice was tight, pitched a half octave higher than her natural register. It wasn't sadness. It was indignation. She was shocked that the trap hadn't sprung. She had laid the bait, waited in the bushes, and watched the prey walk right past it. I stopped. I didn't turn around immediately. I took a breath, calibrated my tone to neutral, and turned to face her. I didn't cross my arms. I kept my hands at my sides, palms open, a non-confrontational, confident stance. I asked how your day was, I said. You said fine. I respect your words. You know it's not fine. She stood up now, the chair scraping loud against the hardwood. You can tell it's not fine. I've been slamming things for 20 minutes, Robert. I noticed the noise, I said. I assumed you were either clumsy tonight or in a rush. I didn't want to insult you by assuming you were throwing a tantrum like a teenager. I am not throwing a tantrum. Then why are you abusing the cabinetry instead of speaking to me? Because you should know. She threw her hands up, a vague, chaotic gesture at the air, the room, the universe. You should know why I'm upset without me having to spell out for you. If you cared, you'd be paying attention. There it was, the core dogma of the manipulation. Mind reading as a proxy for affection. It's a rigged game. If I loved her, I would be psychic. If I wasn't psychic, I didn't love her. It allows her to move the goalposts whenever she wants. It relieves her of the burden of communication and places the entire burden of resolution on me. I walked back toward the table. I didn't enter her personal space. That triggers the fight or flight response, but I closed the distance enough to speak quietly and firmly. Rachel, listen to me. She stopped talking. Her chest was heaving slightly. She thought this was the turnaround. She thought I was about to grovel. If you have a grievance, you are an adult with a vocabulary, I said. Use it. Until then, I will assume everything is fine. She blinked. The script had broken. Excuse me. I'm not going to guess, I told her. I'm not going to decode heavy sighs, and I'm not going to interpret the velocity of a closing cabinet door. If you are mad, say, Robert, I am mad because of X. We can discuss X. We can solve X. But I am done engaging with the silence. It's inefficient. It's boring. And it's childish. Childish. Her face flushed a deep crimson. I am upset because you didn't even acknowledge the anniversary of the day we met. It was yesterday. I paused. I accessed the calendar in my head. I have a near-eidetic memory for dates and schedules. It's a professional requirement. We met on October 20th, I said, at the Miller's barbecue. I have it in my Outlook calendar. I have it in my phone. She froze. I saw her eyes dart to the side, doing a frantic mental calculation. The righteous anger wavered, replaced by a sudden, sickening flash of uncertainty. No, she said, her voice losing its edge. It was the 14th, the Friday. The 14th was a Tuesday that year, I said. I was in Chicago for the regional sales conference. I flew back on Friday, the 17th. We met the following Sunday, the 20th. I didn't say it with triumph. I didn't smile. I simply presented the data. Check your phone, I said. She didn't move. She didn't need to check. She knew that I don't make mistakes with the schedule. She stood there, the wind completely taken out of her sails. She had built an entire evening of misery, a fortress of silence and resentment, based on a clerical error. She had punished me for 2 hours, ruined a meal, and raised her blood pressure over a date she had remembered incorrectly. Oh, she said. It was a small sound. Even if I had missed it, I said, and even if it was yesterday, you could have said, hey, you forgot the anniversary. I would have checked, realized a mistake, or corrected the date, and we would have moved on. Instead, you chose this. I gestured to the uneaten food and the tension that still hung in the air like smoke. You chose to make the evening miserable, hoping I would suffer enough to earn your forgiveness for a crime I didn't commit. She looked down at the table. I wanted you to show you cared. This doesn't make me think you care, I said. It makes me think you want an audience. I looked at her. I waited for the realization to hit her. I needed to see if she understood the stakes here. This wasn't about a date. This was about the method of operation. She sat back down slowly. I'm sorry, she mumbled. I accept the apology, I said. But I'm going to study now. I have work to do. You're still going to leave the room? She asked. She looked smaller now. The power dynamic had flipped instantly. She had tried to make herself the prize to be won, but had revealed herself to be a liability to be managed. Yes, I said. I'm going to read. But I'm okay now. We can talk. We can watch a movie. I'm not okay, I said. I've had a 12-hour day. I came home to a hostile environment. I don't have the energy to pivot instantly to happy couple mode just because you realize your error. There is a cost to this behavior, Rachel. I need some quiet. I turned and walked away. I entered the study and closed the door. I didn't slam it. I pushed it until the latch clicked into place, a precise mechanical sound of separation. I sat in the leather Eames chair and turned on the brass desk lamp. The pool of yellow light illuminated the oak desk, the stack of contracts, and my tablet. I didn't pick up the work immediately. I sat there, hands resting on the armrests, and looked at the grain of the wood. My heart rate was steady, 72 beats per minute. I wasn't angry. Anger implies a loss of control. I felt something colder, sharper. I felt clarity. I ran the analysis. Rachel is 30 years old. She is attractive, intelligent, and employed. We share similar values regarding finance and lifestyle. But the maintenance cost is becoming unsustainable. She views the relationship as a dramatic production where she is the director and the lead actress, and I am a supporting actor who hasn't been given the script. She creates conflict to generate intimacy. She believes that the cycle of break-fix creates a stronger bond. I view that as structural fatigue. Tonight, she learned a lesson. Pouting renders her invisible. I removed the reward. My attention and the behavior collapsed. That is basic behavioral conditioning. Pavlovian. But the lingering problem was that she attempted it in the first place. I heard a soft knock at the door. Robert. Her voice was muffled by the solid wood core of the door. I'm working, Rachel, I said. My voice was loud enough to be heard, but I didn't shout. Can I bring you some tea? Or a whiskey? She was trying to buy her way back in. This was the love-bombing phase that inevitably follows the silent treatment. She creates a deficit, and now she is frantically trying to pay down the debt. She wants to perform the role of the good partner to erase the memory of the petulant child. No, thank you, I said. Are you sure? I made the herbal blend you like. I said no. Thank you. There was a pause. I could hear her shifting her weight on the floorboards in the hallway. She was waiting for me to open the door. She wanted the visual reassurance that I wasn't leaving. She wanted to see my face so she could gauge if she was safe. I kept my eyes on the desk. I didn't move. After 10 seconds, I heard footsteps retreating. I leaned back. The realization settled in with the weight of a finalized contract. I didn't want to spend the next 40 years training someone how to communicate directly. I didn't want a partner I had to manage. I wanted an equal. An equal speaks up. An equal says, I'm hurt, not slam. An equal understands that my time is a finite resource, not a plaything for their insecurities. The attraction was evaporating. It wasn't being replaced by hate. It was being replaced by indifference. Once you see the machinery behind the curtain, the insecurity, the desperate need for control, the magic dies. You can't unsee the wires. I picked up the tablet. I opened the file for the Q4 projections. I would finish the lease. 3 more months. It was logically the soundest way to handle the separation of assets. I would be polite. I would be cordial. I would be a roommate. But the investment was over. I wasn't putting any more equity into this pot. I swiped to the next page of the spreadsheet. The numbers were clean, rigid, and made sense. If there was a discrepancy, you found it, fixed it, and the column balanced. I prefer things that balance. Rachel was a permanent deficit. The offensive began the following morning. I woke up at 6 a.m. Rachel was already awake, which was a statistical anomaly. Usually, I am up an hour before her. I walked into the kitchen, and the smell of coffee and bacon hit me. She was at the stove, wearing one of my old shirts, a classic maneuver to establish territory and intimacy. She turned as I entered, a bright, fragile smile plastered on her face. Good morning, she chirped. I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs with chives, just how you like them. She had set the table. Placemats. Juice. The works. It was a bribe. Good morning, I said. I poured a cup of coffee. Black. I have a 7:30 call with the London office, I said. I'll have to take this to go. The smile faltered. Oh, but I made a full spread. Can't you sit for 10 minutes? I need to review the slide deck before the call, I said. Thank you for the offer, though. I grabbed a piece of toast, wrapped in a napkin, and headed for the door. Robert, I stopped, hand on the doorknob. Are we good? She asked. Her voice was small. We're fine, Rachel, I said. Have a good day. I left. Over the next week, I employed a strategy of professional detachment. I was polite. I answered her questions. I performed my household duties. But I offered zero emotional surface area for her to latch onto. When she sighed, I ignored it. When she tried to start a circular conversation about us, I redirected to logistics. I feel like you're distant, she said on Wednesday. I'm focused on the merger, I replied. It's a critical time at the firm. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. The truth was that I was auditing the relationship, and I had found it insolvent. By Friday, the dynamic had shifted permanently. She stopped the passive aggression because she realized it had no effect. It was like shouting into a void. Without the echo, the noise felt foolish. She became quiet, but it wasn't the silence of manipulation anymore. It was the silence of someone who realizes they are losing their grip. Saturday morning, I initiated the lease discussion. I sat her down at the dining table, the scene of the crime from the previous week. I had printed out a copy of our rental agreement. "We need to talk about the renewal," I said. She looked hopeful. "Yes, I was thinking we could look at that place on 4th Street, the one with the balcony." "Rachel," I said, "I'm not renewing the lease with you." The heir left the room. "What?" "I'm moving out on the 1st of the month," I said. "I've already secured a short-term rental near the office." "Moving out? Because of the dinner?" "Robert, that's insane." "It was one fight." "It wasn't one fight," I corrected. "It was a pattern. The dinner was just a data point that confirmed the trend." "I can change," she said. She was crying now. "I know I can be difficult. I know I have a temper. I'll go to therapy. I'll stop the silent treatment." I looked at her. I believed she meant it in the moment. Desperation makes people promise anything. But personality traits are calcified by 30. She might suppress it for 6 months, maybe a year. But eventually, the stress would rise, and the cupboard doors would start slamming again. I wasn't willing to gamble my peace of mind on the variance. "I know you want to change," I said, "but I've lost the desire to wait for it." "You're throwing away 3 years," she screamed. "Over nothing. Over logistics." "I'm not throwing them away," I said. "I'm capping the loss." "We are incompatible, Rachel. You need a partner who validates your drama. I need a partner who minimizes it. We are not a match." I stood up. "I'll be sleeping in the guest room until the 1st. I've already transferred my share of the rent for the remainder of the term to your account." I walked to the door. "Where are you going?" she sobbed. "To the gym," I said. "It's leg day." 3 months later, I was sitting in a cafe on the corner of 5th and Main, reading a physical book, The Stoic Challenge. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Rachel. "Hey, I found a box of your winter coats in the storage unit. Do you want them? Or should I donate them? Miss you." I looked at the message. The "miss you" was the hook. The coats were the bait. She wanted me to come over. She wanted a scene. She wanted the nostalgia. I typed a reply. "Donate them. Thanks." I blocked the number. I took a sip of my espresso. The coffee was perfect. The air in the cafe was quiet, save for the hum of the machine and the low murmur of conversation. No slamming doors. No heavy sighs. No guessing games. I looked out the window at the traffic moving efficiently through the intersection. Green light, go. Red light, stop. Simple. Logical. I went back to my book. The world was lived in, detailed, and practically perfect. And I was finally completely alone. Thank you for listening. That brings today's story to a close. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. See you next time.